Commander Marcus Chen had never expected his military service to lead him to this moment. Standing in the ornate chamber of the Zephyrian High Command, surrounded by towering alien dignitaries with their crystalline exoskeletons gleaming under the artificial suns, he felt the weight of humanity's first major victory in the Galactic War. The Terran Alliance had just delivered a crushing blow to the hegemony forces at the Battle of Kepler 442b. What should have been humanity's swift destruction had instead become a testament to human ingenuity and stubborn refusal to surrender. For 3 months, Marcus and his fleet had held the line against impossible odds, using guerrilla tactics that baffled the enemy's rigid military doctrine. Commander Chen, spoke High Magistrate Veltar, his voice resonating through the translation matrix. Your species has proven unexpectedly capable. The hegemony underestimated human tactical flexibility. Marcus remained at attention, his dress uniform crisp despite the journey from the outer rim. Around him, other human officers stood equally rigid, though he could sense their barely contained pride. They had earned respect through blood and sacrifice, and now the galaxy's oldest civilization was acknowledging it. As is customary among our people, Veltar continued, victorious commanders are offered tribute from our coffers. Rare metals, advanced technologies, territorial concessions. The magistrate's compound eyes shifted, catching light like prisms. However, we understand humans value different things. The chamber's atmosphere grew tense. Marcus had studied Zephyrian culture extensively during the war, knowing that understanding your allies was as crucial as understanding your enemies. The Zephyrians were an ancient race, their society built on complex hierarchies and ritual exchanges that had governed galactic politics for millennia. We offer you a selection of our most valued possessions, Veltar announced, gesturing toward a series of floating platforms that materialized around the chamber. Each held different items, glowing crystals that pulsed with unknown energy, data cores containing technological secrets, and stranger things that defied easy categorization. Marcus walked slowly among the offerings, his tactical mind automatically assessing their potential value. The energy crystals could revolutionize human power systems. The data cores might contain star charts to unexplored regions or advanced manufacturing techniques. Each item represented a significant step forward for human civilization. Then he saw her. On the final platform, partially hidden behind a shimmering force field, was a figure that made Marcus stop breathing. She appeared humanoid but clearly wasn't human. Her skin had a subtle blue-silver tint that shifted like liquid mercury in the light. Elongated ears swept back from a face that was hauntingly beautiful, with large violet eyes that held depths of intelligence and something else. A profound sadness that cut through Marcus like a blade. Heavy energy shackles bound her wrists and ankles, their surfaces covered in pulsing symbols that Marcus recognized as hegemony script. She wore simple gray clothing that looked more like a prisoner's uniform than anything else. When their eyes met, Marcus felt something electric pass between them, a connection that transcended species and circumstance. Ah. Veltar noticed his attention. You are drawn to the Vorthak. Interesting choice, Commander. Vorthak, Marcus asked, his voice carefully neutral despite the storm of emotions building in his chest. A member of a rebellious species that defied hegemony rule. They possessed dangerous technologies, reality manipulation abilities that threatened the established order. Most were eliminated, but a few survived as educational examples. The casual way Veltar spoke of genocide made Marcus's blood run cold, but he maintained his composure. How long has she been imprisoned? This particular specimen? Perhaps 50 of your years. She was captured during the final siege of Vorthak Prime. Her people's resistance was admirable in its futility. 50 years. Marcus tried to comprehend that timeline. This woman, for despite her alien features, she was undeniably feminine, had been a prisoner since before he was born. The sadness in her eyes suddenly made terrible sense. Her species possesses remarkable longevity, Veltar continued, and their mental capabilities remain intact for centuries. She would make an interesting addition to your research facilities. Her knowledge of hegemony military installations alone would be valuable. Marcus felt sick. The Zephyrians were offering him a sentient being as if she were a piece of equipment. He looked around the chamber at the other offerings, then back at her. She was watching him with those violet eyes, and he thought he saw a flicker of something. Hope? Fear? It was impossible to tell. "The choice is yours, Commander," Veltar said. "Though I should mention Vorthak subjects require careful handling. Their reality manipulation abilities are suppressed by the shackles, but they remain unpredictable." Marcus's mind raced. Taking her would mean accepting the Zephyrian view that sentient beings could be property. But leaving her here meant abandoning someone who had clearly suffered enough. He thought about the war, about the human colonies that had been burned by hegemony forces, about the civilians who had died because of this vast, uncaring galactic hierarchy. Humanity had fought this war for freedom, for the right to exist without bowing to ancient powers that viewed newer species as resources to be exploited. How could he turn his back on another victim of that same system? "I'll take her," Marcus said quietly. Veltar's crystalline features shifted in what might have been approval. "An unexpected choice, but yours to make. The transfer protocols will be completed within the hour." As the ceremony continued around him, Marcus found himself unable to look away from the Vorthak woman. She had heard his choice, and something in her expression had changed. The sadness remained, but now it was mixed with confusion and perhaps the faintest ember of hope. Marcus had no idea what he was going to do with his reward, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The moment they reached his ship, those shackles were coming off. Whatever consequences that might bring, he would face them. Humanity had not fought for freedom only to perpetuate the enslavement of others. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had very different ideas about the value of a life. The journey back to the UTS Defiance felt like the longest hours of Marcus's life. The Vorthak woman, his reward, sat in the shuttle's passenger compartment, still shackled and under guard as per Zephyrian protocol. Every few minutes, Marcus found himself glancing back at her, noting how she kept her violet eyes downcast, her posture suggesting decades of learned submission. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, his aide-de-camp, had been uncharacteristically quiet since leaving the Zephyrian station. Finally, as they approached the Defiance's hangar bay, she spoke up. "Sir, what exactly are we going to do with her?" It was a fair question. Marcus had been asking himself the same thing since making his choice. "First, we're going to get those shackles off. Then we figure out the rest." Morrison's eyebrows rose. "Sir, the Zephyrians warned us about her abilities. Reality manipulation could be dangerous to the ship." "Lieutenant," Marcus said firmly, "we don't imprison people because they might be dangerous. That's hegemony thinking." The shuttle settled into the hangar with a soft thud. As the doors hissed open, Marcus could see his crew working efficiently around them, but he noticed the curious glances directed at their unusual passenger. Word would spread quickly through the ship's 800 crew members. "Commander Chen," came the voice of Chief Engineer Rodriguez over the comm. "We've prepared a secure quarters in Section C as requested. Medical team is standing by." Marcus nodded to the shuttle pilot. "Have Dr. Patel meet us in engineering. And Rodriguez, bring your best lock-picking tools." The walk through the ship's corridors was a strange procession. Marcus led the way, followed by the Vorthak woman who moved with surprising grace despite her restraints. Then Morrison and two security personnel who looked deeply uncomfortable with the entire situation. Engineering buzzed with activity as they entered. Rodriguez, a compact woman with grease-stained hands and sharp eyes, was already examining a collection of tools and scanning devices laid out on a workbench. "Those shackles are hegemony tech," she said without preamble. "Energy-based locks with biometric security. They're designed to be tamper-proof." "But can you remove them?" Marcus asked. Rodriguez grinned. "Commander, you're talking to someone who hot-wired her first speeder at age 12. Give me an hour." Dr. Patel arrived carrying his medical kit, his usual calm demeanor showing cracks of concern. "Commander, I have to advise caution. We know nothing about Vorthak physiology. Removing those restraints could trigger unknown reactions." Marcus looked at the woman who would soon be freed from 50 years of imprisonment. She had been listening to their conversation with growing amazement, as if the very idea of removing her shackles was inconceivable. "What's your name?" Marcus asked her directly. The question seemed to shock her. For a moment she didn't respond, then spoke in a voice like silver bells, her words flowing through the translation matrix. I was Lyralee of the 7th House of Vorthak Prime. Lyrily, Marcus repeated, testing the musical syllables. I'm Marcus. We're going to get you out of those restraints. Her violet eyes widened, and for the first time since he'd seen her, hope flickered openly in her expression. Why? She whispered. Your people accept me as property. Why would you free me? Because, Marcus said simply, that's not what we do. Rodriguez had begun her work, scanner in one hand and a complex multi-tool in the other. These locks are definitely biometric, she muttered, but they're keyed to hegemony physiology. Human biometrics should confuse the hell out of them. The next hour was tense. Rodriguez worked with the focused intensity that had made her the best engineer in the fleet, while Dr. Patel monitored Lyreli's vital signs through his scanners. The Vorthak woman remained perfectly still, though Marcus could see her hands trembling slightly. Got it, Rodriguez announced suddenly. The shackles around Lyreli's wrists dissolved into sparkling motes of energy that dissipated into the air. The effect was immediate and startling. Lyreli gasped, her entire form seeming to shimmer. The air around her fluctuated like heat waves, and several small objects on nearby workbenches began to float gently upward before settling back down. Incredible, Dr. Patel breathed, his scanners going wild. The energy readings are off the charts, but they're stabilizing. Lyreli stared at her freed hands as if they belonged to someone else. She flexed her fingers, and Marcus could swear he saw brief sparks of violet energy dance between them. Then she looked up at him with an expression of pure wonder. 50 years, she said softly. 50 years since I could feel the flow of reality around me. Rodriguez had moved to the ankle shackles, working with renewed confidence. When they, too, dissolved, Lyreli actually took a step backward, overwhelmed by sensations she had been denied for half a century. How do you feel? Dr. Patel asked, approaching with his medical scanner. Free, she said, then laughed, a sound like crystal chimes that made everyone in engineering stop what they were doing. For the first time in 50 years, I feel free. Marcus found himself smiling despite the gravity of the situation. What will you do now? The question seemed to bring Lyreli back to the present. Her expression grew serious as she looked around the engineering bay, taking in the human technology, and the faces watching her with curiosity rather than fear or hatred. I do not know, she admitted. My people are gone. My world is ash. I have no family, no home to return to. She paused, studying Marcus intently. Why did you choose me? The Zephyrians offered you treasures beyond imagining. Because, Marcus said, you're not a treasure to be owned. You're a person who deserved to be free. Something shifted in Lyreli's expression. She moved closer to Marcus, and he caught a scent like starlight and ozone. When she spoke, her voice carried a formal cadence that suggested ritual significance. Commander Marcus Chen of the Terran Alliance, you have freed me from bondage when you could have left me to die in chains. By the ancient laws of my people, I owe you a life debt that can only be repaid through service. Wait, Marcus said quickly. I don't want... It is not about what you want, Lyreli interrupted gently. It is about honor, about acknowledging a gift that cannot be repaid with mere gratitude. Dr. Patel cleared his throat. Perhaps we should continue this conversation in more comfortable surroundings. I'd like to conduct a full medical evaluation, and I'm sure our guest would appreciate some rest. As they prepared to leave engineering, Rodriguez approached Marcus. Commander, there's something you should know. When those shackles came off, my instruments detected some kind of energy pulse. It was brief, but... She hesitated. But what? It was broadcast, sir. Whatever just happened here, someone else knows about it. 3 days had passed since Lyreli's liberation, and the Defiance had settled into an uneasy routine. The Vorthak woman had been assigned quarters in the diplomatic section, though she spent most of her time in the observation decks, staring out at the stars with an expression of wonder that never seemed to fade. Marcus found her there now, standing before the main viewport as they traveled through hyperspace. The swirling tunnel of distorted light painted her silver-blue skin in shifting patterns of color. The stars look different when you're free to choose which ones to visit, she said without turning around. I imagine they do. Marcus moved to stand beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. Over the past few days, he had learned that Lyrelai valued personal space. 50 years of imprisonment had made her wary of being crowded. My people called them the eternal witnesses, she continued. We believed they watched over all living things, recording their deeds for judgment in the afterrealm. What do you think they're witnessing now? Lyrelai turned to face him, and Marcus was struck again by the intelligence in her violet eyes. Perhaps they are witnessing the birth of something unprecedented. A human who treats former enemies with kindness. You were never my enemy, wasn't I? She moved closer, and Marcus caught that unique scent again, like winter air and distant lightning. The hegemony classified my people as dangerous insurgents. We fought against the established order for 3 centuries before they finally destroyed us. Marcus had spent hours reading the classified files Dr. Patel had accessed about the Vorthak. The clinical language couldn't hide the horror of what had been done to them. An entire species systematically hunted down and eliminated because their natural abilities threatened the hegemony's control. You fought for freedom, he said. That's something humans understand. Yes, Lyrelai said softly. I am beginning to understand that about your species. Their conversation was interrupted by the ship's intercom crackling to life. Commander Chen to the bridge. Priority Alpha. Marcus and Lyrelai exchanged glances. Priority Alpha meant immediate threat to the ship. Stay here, Marcus said, already moving toward the door. No. Lyrelai's voice carried unexpected authority. If danger approaches, I will not hide in safety while others face it. The bridge was a hub of controlled chaos when they arrived. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the ship's XO, was coordinating with multiple departments while status displays showed rapidly changing tactical information. Report, Marcus ordered, settling into his command chair. Sir, we've got company, Jackson said grimly. 3 hegemony heavy cruisers dropped out of hyperspace on an intercept course. They're demanding we prepare for boarding and inspection. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. How did they find us? Unknown, sir, but they're specifically requesting the return of stolen hegemony property. Marcus didn't need to ask what property they meant. He glanced at Lyrelai, who had gone perfectly still beside his chair. Her expression was carefully neutral, but he could see the tension in her posture. Sir, came the voice of Communications Officer Torres. The lead ship is transmitting. Audio only. Put it through. A harsh voice filled the bridge, speaking accented Galactic standard. Human vessel, this is War Commander Thakmor of the Hegemony 3rd Fleet. You carry stolen property belonging to the Imperial Archive. Prepare to be boarded or face the consequences. Marcus activated his command communicator. War Commander, this is Commander Chen of the UTS Defiance. We carry no stolen property. We are transporting a liberated prisoner of war under the protection of the Terran Alliance. The Vorthak terrorist is property of the Hegemony, awarded to you by our Zephyrian allies. Thakmor's voice crackled with barely controlled rage. Its return is not negotiable. Her freedom is not negotiable either, Marcus replied firmly. The channel went silent for several seconds. Then Thakmor spoke again, his voice deadly cold. You have 1 hour to comply, human. After that, we will take what belongs to us by force. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Marcus looked around at his crew, seeing determination mixed with concern on their faces. The Defiance was a heavy cruiser, but facing 3 hegemony warships was effectively suicide. Options? Marcus asked. We could run, suggested Navigation Officer Kim. The Andromeda Gate is 6 hours away at maximum burn, if we can stay ahead of them. They'd catch us before we reach the gate, Jackson said. Those ships are built for pursuit. What about calling for backup? Torres offered. Nearest Terran fleet is 12 hours away, Marcus replied. We'd never last that long. Sir, Lyrelai spoke for the first time since entering the bridge. I have a suggestion. All eyes turned to her. Marcus could see some of his crew still seemed uncomfortable with her presence, but she had done nothing but help since coming aboard. Let me go back to them, she said simply. Absolutely not, Marcus said immediately. Commander, you do not understand what you are risking for me. The Hegemony does not make idle threats. They will destroy your ship and everyone aboard it to recover me. Then we'll have to find another way. Lyrelai moved closer to his chair, speaking quietly so only he could hear. Marcus, I have lived as a prisoner for 50 years. I will not be the cause of innocent deaths. And I won't hand over someone who's done nothing wrong to people who treat sapient beings as property. Sir? Chief Engineer Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. I might have an idea, but it's risky. I'm listening. The hegemony ships are older models. Their shield generators use a resonance frequency that we could potentially disrupt with a focused burst from our main deflector array. If we could drop their shields even for a few seconds, we'd still be outnumbered 3-1, Jackson pointed out. Not necessarily, Lyrelai said, her voice growing stronger. War Commander Thakmor mentioned something important. He knows I am no longer shackled. Marcus looked at her sharply. What does that mean? It means he is afraid. For the first time since he'd known her, Lyrelai smiled, and it was not entirely pleasant. The hegemony spent considerable effort ensuring my people could never use our gifts. They fear what we might accomplish if freed. What exactly can you do? Lyrelai gestured toward the main view screen, where the 3 hegemony ships were visible as distant points of light. Reality manipulation is not magic, Commander. It is the ability to convince the universe that things should be different than they are. Small changes, usually. Redirecting energy flows, altering molecular bonds, encouraging chaos where order exists. Marcus began to understand. You could sabotage their ships? I could try, but I would need to be closer. Much closer. How close? Lyrelai's smile widened, showing teeth that were slightly too sharp to be human. Close enough to touch. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Marcus looked at his crew, seeing the same mixture of hope and terror on their faces that he felt in his heart. Rodriguez, he said finally, how long do you need to prepare that frequency burst? 30 minutes, sir. Marcus nodded slowly. Do it. He turned to Lyrelai. And you better start explaining exactly what you have in mind. The shuttle bay had been transformed into a staging area for the most audacious plan Marcus had ever conceived. Lyrelai stood in the center of the bay, no longer wearing the simple gray clothing she had arrived in. Instead, she wore a form-fitting black suit that Dr. Patel had modified with biomonitors and a personal shield generator. You're absolutely certain about this? Marcus asked for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. As certain as one can be about convincing reality to behave differently, Lyrelai replied, checking the small device attached to her wrist. The quantum field manipulator Dr. Patel designed should amplify my natural abilities significantly. Dr. Patel looked up from his final equipment checks, his face pale but determined. The readings from her initial tests were remarkable. Her brain produces quantum field fluctuations that interact with subatomic particles in ways we don't fully understand. The amplifier should extend her effective range to about 50 meters. 50 meters, Lieutenant Morrison repeated skeptically, against a ship that's over 2 kilometers long. I only need to reach their shield generators, Lyrelai said calmly. Create enough quantum instability in their power conduits and the cascade failure will do the rest. Marcus studied the tactical display showing the approaching hegemony ships. They were massive, bristling with weapons that could vaporize the Defiance in seconds. But they were also old, built to the same designs that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. The hegemony had grown complacent, relying on overwhelming force rather than innovation. Sir, came Chief Rodriguez's voice over the comm. We're ready to transmit the frequency burst on your command. Understood. Marcus turned to Lyrelai. Last chance to reconsider. Marcus, she said, her violet eyes meeting his. 50 years ago, my people died fighting for freedom. Today I have the chance to honor their sacrifice by protecting others who believe in that same freedom. I will not waste this opportunity. Marcus nodded, his throat tight with emotion he couldn't quite name. Launch when ready. The shuttle carrying Lyrelai departed with minimal fanfare, its stealth systems engaged to avoid detection. Marcus returned to the bridge, where his crew was monitoring the approaching hegemony ships with professional calm that didn't quite hide their anxiety. Distance to target? Marcus asked. 200,000 kilometers and closing, Navigator Kim reported. At current speed, they'll be in weapons range in 12 minutes. Sir? Communications Officer Torres spoke up. The shuttle is transmitting. Lyrelai says she's ready. Marcus took a deep breath. Everything depended on timing now. Rodriguez, initiate frequency burst on my mark. The next few minutes felt like hours. Marcus watched the tactical display as the hegemony ships drew closer, their weapon systems powering up in preparation for what they assumed would be a one-sided battle. Sir? Sensor operator Walsh called out. I'm detecting a small craft launching from the lead hegemony ship. It appears to be heading directly for our shuttle. Marcus cursed under his breath. Can you identify it? Looks like a single-seat fighter. Heavily armed for its size, this wasn't part of the plan. Lyreley would be vulnerable while concentrating on her reality manipulation. A fighter could easily destroy her shuttle before she completed her mission. Sir, Jackson said quietly, we could launch our own fighters to intercept. No, Marcus said immediately. That would reveal that we're not simply surrendering. We stick to the plan. What he didn't say was that sending fighters would also mean condemning his pilots to death. The hegemony ships would obliterate them the moment they launched. Sir, Torres announced. Incoming transmission from the shuttle. Put it through. Lyreley's voice filled the bridge, calm despite the danger. Commander, I see the fighter approaching. Do not deviate from the plan. I can handle one small ship. Lyreley, you can't fight and concentrate on sabotage at the same time. Watch me. The channel went silent. On the tactical display, Marcus could see the shuttle changing course slightly, moving to intercept the hegemony fighter rather than avoiding it. What is she doing? Morrison whispered. Marcus was wondering the same thing when Walsh called out excitedly, Sir, you need to see this. The main view screen switched to a magnified view of the approaching fighter. As they watched, the small craft began to behave erratically. Its engine output fluctuated wildly, and its flight path became increasingly unstable. I'm reading massive power fluctuations throughout the fighter's systems, Walsh reported, his voice filled with awe. It's like the ship is fighting itself. Suddenly, the fighter's engines died completely. The craft tumbled through space, dark and lifeless, its pilot presumably unconscious or worse. Range to primary target? Marcus asked, forcing himself to focus. 50,000 kilometers. Sir. Rodriguez's voice crackled through the comm. I'm showing severe instabilities in the lead ship's shield matrix. Whatever she's doing, it's working. Marcus watched the tactical display as cascading failures began to spread through the hegemony flagship. Shield strength dropped to 60%, then 40%, then 0. Now, Marcus shouted. All weapons target the lead ship. The Defiance's main guns opened fire, sending brilliant beams of coherent energy across the void. Without shields, the hegemony ship's armor couldn't withstand the barrage. Explosions bloomed along its hull as critical systems failed. But the victory was short-lived. The other two hegemony ships opened fire, their massive weapons turning space around the Defiance into a deadly light show. The human ship's shields flared and sparked under the assault. Shields down to 70%, Jackson reported. Sir, Torres called out. Transmission from Lyreley. She says she needs more time to reach the second ship. Marcus looked at the tactical display. The first hegemony ship was crippled but still dangerous. The second ship was maintaining distance while pounding the Defiance with long-range fire. The third ship was moving to flank them. How long? Marcus asked. 3 minutes. Marcus did the math in his head. At the current rate of damage, the Defiance's shields would fail in less than 2 minutes. All power to shields, he ordered. Strip it from life support if you have to. Sir, Dr. Patel's voice came over the comm from his position in sickbay. I'm monitoring Lyreley's vital signs. The strain of what she's doing is enormous. Her neural activity is off the charts. Can she handle it? I don't know. No one has ever attempted reality manipulation on this scale. Marcus gripped his command chair as another barrage rocked the ship. Outside, he could see Lyreley's shuttle moving toward the second hegemony ship, but it looked impossibly small against the massive warship. Shields at 40%, Jackson announced. Sir, Walsh called out suddenly. I'm reading power fluctuations in the second hegemony ship. Similar pattern to the first one. Marcus allowed himself a moment of hope. If Lyreley could disable the second ship, they might actually survive this. Then Torres's voice cut through his optimism like a blade. Sir, the shuttle's life support systems are failing. Lyreley's biosigns are becoming erratic. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of his decision. He had freed her from 50 years of imprisonment, only to ask her to sacrifice her life for strangers. 20% shields remaining, Jackson reported grimly. Marcus opened his eyes and looked at the view screen, where the second hegemony ship was now showing signs of serious damage. But there was still one ship left and the Defiance couldn't survive much more punishment. Commander, Lyreley's voice came through the comm. Weak but determined, I'm going to attempt something that has never been done before. Tell my story, Marcus. Tell the galaxy that the last daughter of Vorthak died free. Before Marcus could respond, the shuttle's signal vanished from their sensors. Outside, reality itself began to bend. The space around the second hegemony ship began to ripple like water disturbed by a stone. Marcus watched in stunned silence as reality itself seemed to fold and twist, creating patterns of light and shadow that hurt to look at directly. "Sir," Walsh called out, his voice shaking. "I'm reading impossible energy signatures. The quantum field around that ship is completely destabilized." On the view screen, the massive hegemony cruiser shuddered as invisible forces tore at its structure. Hull plates began peeling away like flower petals, spinning off into space in slow motion. The ship's weapons fell silent as power conduits throughout its 2-kilometer length suffered catastrophic failures. "Where's the shuttle?" Marcus demanded. "Gone, sir," Torres reported quietly. "No signal, no debris. It's like it never existed." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. Lirelei had warned him this might happen, but he hadn't truly believed she would sacrifice herself. The woman who had endured 50 years of imprisonment had chosen to die protecting people she barely knew. "Sir," Jackson's voice cut through his grief. "The third hegemony ship is changing course." "It's running!" Marcus looked at the tactical display. The remaining hegemony vessel had indeed reversed course and was accelerating away from the battle zone at maximum speed. Apparently, even hegemony commanders had limits to their courage when faced with forces beyond their understanding. "Let them go," Marcus said quietly. "We have wounded to tend to." The next several hours were a blur of damage reports and casualty lists. The Defiance had taken severe punishment, but her crew had fought brilliantly. Only 3 fatalities, though dozens were injured. It was a miracle they had survived at all. Marcus found himself in sickbay helping Dr. Patel treat the wounded. Work helped keep his mind off what they had lost, or rather, whom they had lost. "Commander," Dr. Patel said as he finished treating a plasma burn on engineering specialist Novak's arm, "there's something you should see." Patel led him to a biobed in the corner of sickbay. To Marcus's shock, Lyra Lee lay there unconscious but clearly alive. Her silver-blue skin was pale and the monitor showed her vital signs were weak but stable. "How?" Marcus asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Emergency transport," Patel explained. "When the shuttle's life support failed, she managed to trigger an emergency beam-out. We found her materialized in Cargo Bay 3, unconscious and suffering from severe neural exhaustion." Marcus moved closer to the biobed. Lyra Lee looked fragile, almost translucent, but she was breathing steadily. "Will she recover?" "I think so. Her neural patterns are unlike anything I've ever seen, but they're stabilizing. Whatever she did out there, it pushed her abilities far beyond their normal limits." As if summoned by their conversation, Lyra Lee's eyes fluttered open. For a moment she seemed confused, then her gaze focused on Marcus with startling clarity. "Did we win?" she asked weakly. Marcus found himself smiling for the first time in hours. "We won. 2 hegemony ships destroyed, 1 fled. No human casualties." "No casualties," she repeated, then closed her eyes with relief. "Good, I was afraid." "You saved us all," Marcus said. "What you did out there, I've never seen anything like it." "Nor have I," Lyra Lee admitted. "I convinced reality that the molecular bonds holding their ship together were optional. The universe was reluctant to accept this change, but I was very persuasive." Dr. Patel shook his head in amazement. "The energy readings we detected were impossible by any known physics. You literally rewrote the laws of nature in that localized space." "Temporarily," Lyra Lee corrected. "Reality has a strong preference for consistency. It always returns to its natural state eventually." Marcus pulled up a chair beside her biobed. "How do you feel?" "Empty," she said simply. "Using so much power at once, it's like pouring out your soul and hoping there's enough left to remain yourself." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the quiet hum of medical equipment and the distant sounds of repair crews working throughout the ship. Finally, Lyra Lee spoke again. "Marcus, I need to tell you something. When I disabled that first fighter, I was able to access its communication logs." Marcus leaned forward. "What did you find?" "The hegemony has put a price on my head. A very large price. They're calling me the last Vorthak and they want me captured alive." She paused, meeting his eyes. "They also have intelligence about human military capabilities now. This battle will not be the end of their interest in your people." "Let them come," Marcus said firmly. "Humanity doesn't run from bullies." "That's what I hoped you would say." Lyra Lee reached out and took his hand in hers. Her skin was cool and smooth, but her grip was surprisingly strong. Marcus, there is something else. A tradition among my people that I think you should know about. What kind of tradition? When a Vorthak is freed from bondage by someone who asks nothing in return. When that person risks everything to protect them. She paused, her violet eyes searching his face. Such a bond is considered sacred, more than friendship, more than alliance. Marcus felt his heart begin to race. What are you saying? I am saying that by human customs you offered me freedom. By Vorthak customs you offered me something far more precious. You offered me a future worth living. Dr. Patel cleared his throat diplomatically. I should check on the other patients, he said. Moving away to give them privacy? Lyra Lie, Marcus said carefully. I don't want you to feel obligated to anything because of what happened. Obligation? She laughed. That crystal chime sound that made everyone who heard it smile. Marcus, you still don't understand. Among my people, when two souls choose to face the universe together, it is the highest honor we can bestow upon each other. Are you sure? We barely know each other. I know that you freed me when you could have chosen treasure. I know that you risked your ship and crew to protect me from those who would see me caged again. I know that you treat me as an equal, not as a curiosity or a weapon. She squeezed his hand. What more does one soul need to know about another? Marcus looked into her eyes and saw no doubt, no hesitation, only a quiet certainty that took his breath away. The crew will talk, he said weakly. Let them talk. Your Dr. Patel has already explained to me how human relationships work. He seems to think we are compatible, whatever that means. Despite everything, Marcus found himself laughing. Patel has been playing matchmaker? He said, and I quote, You two look at each other like you're seeing home for the first time. He's very romantic for a medical professional. Marcus considered the impossibility of their situation. A human commander and the last survivor of an extinct alien species, thrown together by war and circumstance. It should have been a diplomatic nightmare, a security risk, a dozen different kinds of complicated. Instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the universe. Lyra Lie, he said finally. If we do this, if we choose to face the future together, you need to know that it won't be easy. The galaxy is changing, and humanity is still finding its place in it. There will be dangers, challenges we can't even imagine yet. Marcus, she said softly, I have lived through the extinction of my people, 50 years of imprisonment, and a battle that shouldn't have been survivable. I think I can handle whatever the future brings as long as I don't have to face it alone. Marcus made his decision. Then you won't. 6 months later, the UTS Defiance arrived at Terra Station, humanity's newest and most ambitious orbital facility. The massive ring-shaped structure orbited Earth's moon, serving as both a military headquarters and a symbol of human determination to claim their place among the stars. Marcus stood in his quarters, adjusting the formal dress uniform he rarely had occasion to wear. Today was special. The Terran Alliance was officially recognizing the Battle of Kepler 442b and its aftermath. More importantly, today was the day he and Lyra Lie would formalize their bond according to both human and Vorthak traditions. A soft chime announced someone at his door. Come in, he called. Dr. Patel entered carrying a small device and wearing an unusually broad smile. Commander, I have something for you. A wedding present, you might say. Marcus accepted the device, which looked like a modified communicator badge. What is it? A quantum resonance translator. I've been working on it for months based on my studies of Vorthak neural patterns. When you and Lyra Lie are bonded, it will allow you to share thoughts and emotions directly, the way her people did with their life partners. Marcus stared at the device, overwhelmed by the gesture. Patel, this is incredible. But the research time alone must have been enormous. Worth every hour, Patel said firmly. You two have given this crew something we didn't know we needed. Hope that the future can be better than the past. Before Marcus could respond, Lieutenant Morrison's voice came over the ship's intercom. Commander Chen, Admiral Reyes requests your presence in Conference Room Alpha. The ceremony is about to begin. Marcus made his way through the ship's corridors, noting how different the Defiance felt now. The repairs from the battle had been completed long ago, but more than that, the crew seemed different. More confident, more unified. Word of their victory had spread throughout the fleet, and with it, the story of the last Vorthak who had chosen to fight alongside humanity. Conference Room Alpha had been transformed for the occasion. The harsh military lighting had been replaced with softer illumination, and someone had managed to acquire flowers from Earth, real roses that filled the room with their subtle fragrance. Admiral Rebecca Reyes, the commander of Terra Station, stood at the front of the room in her dress uniform. She was a small woman with iron gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war, but she was smiling as Marcus entered. "Commander," she said warmly, "are you ready for this?" "As ready as anyone can be for something unprecedented," Marcus replied. The door chimed again, and Marcus turned to see Lyrelai enter. His breath caught in his throat. She wore a flowing gown that seemed to shift between silver and deep purple depending on the light, crafted according to ancient Vorthak traditions, but modified for the occasion by the ship's fabrication unit. Her violet eyes were bright with joy, and her silver-blue skin seemed to glow with an inner light. "You look beautiful," Marcus said, taking her hands in his. "And you look nervous," she replied with gentle amusement. "Second thoughts?" "Never." Admiral Reyes cleared her throat diplomatically. "If we're ready, I'd like to begin. We're gathered here today to witness something that would have been impossible just a year ago. The joining of two people from different worlds, different species, but united in their commitment to each other and to the ideals of freedom and dignity that define the best of us." The ceremony itself was brief but meaningful. Admiral Reyes spoke about the bonds that transcended species and the courage required to choose love in a universe often defined by conflict. Marcus and Lyrelai exchanged vows that they had written together, promising to stand together against whatever challenges the future might bring. When Admiral Reyes declared them bonded according to the laws of the Terran Alliance, Dr. Patel stepped forward with the quantum resonance devices. "These will allow you to share the mental bond that Vorthak couples traditionally formed. The connection will grow stronger over time." Marcus and Lyrelai activated the devices simultaneously. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Marcus felt a warm presence at the edge of his consciousness, like a gentle hand touching his mind. Lyrelai's thoughts flowed into his awareness, not words, but emotions. Joy, love, contentment, and underneath it all, a sense of belonging that she had thought lost forever. Through their new bond, he felt her experiencing his own emotions in return, his deep affection for her, his pride in what they had accomplished together, and his determination to build a future worthy of the sacrifices that had brought them to this moment. "How does it feel?" Admiral Reyes asked with genuine curiosity. "Like coming home," Marcus and Lyrelai said simultaneously, then laughed at their perfect synchronization. The small gathering applauded, and Marcus found himself surrounded by well-wishers from his crew. Chief Rodriguez slapped him on the back hard enough to rattle his teeth, while Dr. Patel beamed like a proud father. Even the normally stoic Lieutenant Morrison was smiling. "So what's next for you two?" Admiral Reyes asked when the congratulations had died down. Marcus looked at Lyrelai, feeling her thoughts merge with his as they considered the question together. "The galaxy is changing," Lyrelai said finally. "The hegemony's defeat here has inspired other subjugated species to resist. There will be more conflicts, more chances for freedom to triumph over oppression. And humanity will need allies who understand both the old ways and the new," Marcus added. "People who can bridge the gap between what was and what could be." Admiral Reyes nodded approvingly. "I was hoping you'd say that. I have a new assignment for you, if you're interested. The Alliance is forming a special diplomatic corps, teams consisting of humans and alien partners who can represent our interests to species considering joining our cause." "Diplomatic corps?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Admiral, I'm a military officer." "You're a man who freed a slave when he could have chosen riches," Admiral Reyes corrected. "You're someone who fought impossible odds and won through courage and compassion. That's exactly what we need in our diplomats." Marcus felt Lyrelai's excitement through their bond. The idea of traveling the galaxy, meeting new species, helping others find the freedom they had fought for, it appealed to both of them. "We accept," he said without hesitation. "Excellent. Your first assignment is the Vega system. 3 species there are considering rebellion against hegemony rule, but they're afraid to act alone. They need to see that there are alternatives to both submission and destruction." As the gathering began to disperse, Marcus and Lyrelai found themselves alone in the conference room. Through their bond, he could feel her contentment, but also something else, a sense of purpose that had been missing from her life for decades. "Any regrets?" he asked. "Only one," she said, moving into his arms. "I regret that my people cannot see what we've accomplished. They would have been proud to know that their last daughter found not just freedom, but love among the stars." Marcus held her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him despite their different origins. "Maybe they can see. Your people believed the stars were witnesses, right?" Lorelei looked up at him with wonder. "Yes, they did. Then they're watching, and they know that their sacrifice wasn't in vain. The last daughter of Vorthak didn't just survive, she thrived. She found a new family, a new purpose, and helped change the galaxy in the process." Through their bond, Marcus felt Lyralee's overwhelming love and gratitude wash over him. But underneath those emotions was something else, a fierce determination that matched his own. Together they would face whatever challenges awaited them among the stars. The universe was vast and often cruel, but it was also full of possibilities for those brave enough to reach for them, and reach they would. Hand in hand, mind in mind, two souls who had found in each other the strength to change the galaxy. 2 years after their bonding ceremony, Marcus and Lyralee stood on the observation deck of the UTS Horizon, watching as the green and blue world of Kepler 438b rotated slowly beneath them. Their diplomatic mission to the Vega system had been the first of many successful endeavors that had seen 12 species join the growing coalition of free worlds. "The Zalani delegation will arrive in 3 hours," Lyralee said, her hand resting on the subtle curve of her belly. Through their quantum bond, Marcus felt her mixture of excitement and protective concern. "Nervous about the negotiations or about Junior deciding to practice gymnastics during the meeting?" Marcus asked, placing his hand over hers. "Both," she admitted with a smile. "Dr. Patel says human Vorthak pregnancies are unpredictable. The baby seems to have inherited my reality manipulation abilities along with your stubborn streak." As if summoned by their conversation, their unborn child gave a particularly vigorous kick that sent small ripples through the quantum field around them. A nearby potted plant began to glow softly with bioluminescent light that definitely wasn't natural. "I should probably ask Patel to install quantum dampeners in the nursery," Marcus mused. "Don't you dare," Lyralee said firmly. "Our daughter will learn to control her gifts properly, not have them suppressed." "Daughter?" "The ultrasounds haven't been conclusive about gender. Call it maternal intuition, enhanced by quantum sensitivity." She paused, her expression growing more serious. "Marcus, there's something we need to discuss. The message from Admiral Reyes mentioned that the hegemony has been asking questions about our child." Marcus felt ice form in his chest. They had known this day would come, but he had hoped for more time. "What kind of questions?" "They want to know if it's true that I'm carrying the first human Vorthak hybrid. If so, they're claiming that such a being represents a potential threat to galactic stability and should be surrendered for evaluation." "Over my dead body," Marcus said with quiet ferocity. "That's what I told Admiral Reyes." Lyralee's eyes flashed with violet fire. "But Marcus, they're building support for their position. Some of the older species remember the last days of Vorthak resistance. They're afraid of what our child might be capable of." Marcus pulled her closer, feeling their daughter's strong heartbeat through their bond. The child was still months from birth, but already her presence was changing both of them. Through Lyralee's Vorthak genetics, Marcus found himself more sensitive to quantum fluctuations. Through his human DNA, their daughter would likely possess emotional resilience and adaptability that pure Vorthak lacked. "Captain Chen," came the voice of Communications Officer Park over the ship's intercom. "The Zalani fleet has arrived ahead of schedule. They're requesting immediate audience." Marcus and Lyralee exchanged glances. The Zalani were an insectoid species that had suffered under hegemony rule for centuries. Their decision to join the coalition would be a significant blow to hegemony influence in this sector. "Have them beamed directly to Conference Room 1, Marcus replied. "We'll be there in 5 minutes." The Zalani delegation consisted of 3 individuals, each standing nearly 3 meters tall with gleaming chitinous exoskeletons and compound eyes that reflected the room's lighting like prisms. Their leader, Queen Voice Kethara, communicated through harmonic vibrations that the ship's translation matrix converted to standard. "Honored coalition representatives," Kethara began, "we come seeking alliance against the hegemony oppressors, but we must address concerns that have reached even our distant hives. What concerns? Lorelei asked, though Marcus suspected they both knew what was coming. The hegemony claims that you carry an abomination that will threaten all natural life. They say the child will possess powers that no single being should wield. Marcus felt anger surge through the quantum bond, but Lorelai's calm helped steady him. Queen Voice Kithara, she said formally, I am the last survivor of my species. My child will be the first of something new, a bridge between human ambition and Vorthak wisdom. The hegemony fears what they cannot control. But what if they are correct? What if the child becomes dangerous? Then she'll be raised by parents who understand the responsibility that comes with power, Marcus said firmly. The same way every parent throughout history has tried to teach their children right from wrong. Through their bond, Marcus felt their daughter responding to the conversation, her developing consciousness already aware of the tension in the room. To his amazement, the quantum field around them began to stabilize, as if the unborn child was trying to project calm. Queen Voice Kithara's compound eyes focused on Lorelai's belly. The offspring, it responds to our discussion? She's more aware than most people realize, Lorelei said proudly. She already knows that her existence challenges those who profit from division and fear. Fascinating, another Zilani delegate clicked. Among our species, larvae do not achieve consciousness until emergence. Yet this hybrid displays awareness while still developing. Human children begin learning in the womb, Marcus explained. Combined with Vorthak quantum sensitivity, our daughter is already forming her understanding of the universe around her. Queen Voice Kithara was silent for several moments, her antennae twitching as she processed this information. Finally, she spoke again. The hegemony offered us protection from this supposed threat. They promised to shield us from the hybrid's influence in exchange for our continued loyalty. Marcus felt his heart sink. Losing the Zilani would be a significant setback for the coalition. However, Kithara continued, we have observed the coalition's actions over these past years. You do not conquer, you liberate. You do not exploit, you cooperate. Your child represents hope for something new, not a return to the old ways of domination. Relief flooded through Marcus. Then you'll join us? We will do more than join you, Kithara declared. We will help you protect your offspring. The Zilani have nursed our young under constant threat for generations. We understand the lengths to which parents must go to ensure their children's survival. Thank you, Lorelei said, her voice thick with emotion. Do not thank us yet, Kithara warned. The hegemony has dispatched a war fleet to this system. They intend to capture your child when it is born and use its abilities to cement their control over reality manipulation technology. Marcus felt the familiar chill of impending battle. How long do we have? Our scouts detected their ship's 3 days' travel from here. They will arrive shortly before your offspring's predicted birth. Marcus and Lorelei looked at each other, their thoughts merging through the quantum bond. Their daughter would be born into a galaxy at war, with enemies already planning to steal her freedom before she drew her first breath. Then we better make sure she's born somewhere safe, Marcus said grimly. There is no safe place for someone like her, Lorelei replied, but there are places worth fighting for. Through their bond, Marcus felt his daughter's response to her mother's words, a pulse of determination that was purely human, filtered through quantum awareness that was unmistakably Vorthak. Their child would indeed be something new in the galaxy. Queen Voice Kithara, Marcus said formally, if you're truly committed to this alliance, we need to discuss battle plans. The hegemony is about to learn that threatening a human's family is a very bad idea. And they will discover, Lorelei added, violet fire dancing in her eyes, that the last daughter of Vorthak did not survive 50 years of imprisonment, only to see her child caged. Outside the ship's windows, the stars seemed to pulse with anticipation. The galaxy was about to witness the birth of something unprecedented. Not just a hybrid child, but a new hope for all those who dreamed of freedom. The future was coming, whether the hegemony was ready for it or not, and it would have its parents' eyes, one violet, one brown, both burning with the light of defiance.